Boys, I think we're back. Yes, after a long hiatus, Konosuba Season 3 is finally airing, and it has been God's blessing on this wonderful world. Let's rewind the clock for a moment, though, to see how we got here in the first place. Konosuba was originally a web novel that ran from December of 2012 to October of 2013, after which it became an entire light novel series, until its completion in May of 2020. As things go, a manga adaptation was well underway from September of 2014, and is still technically ongoing, but releasing slowly. In the middle of its run, Season 1 of the anime adaptation was released in July of 2016, and that's where I myself became acquainted with the series. This series truly became a staple in the isekai genre, especially for its super effective deconstruction of what were becoming classic tropes. A second season aired in January of 2017, generating even more hype for this series, but strangely enough ended as if there weren't going to be a continuation, as the light novels had more traffic for fans looking to see where the series was going. But Konosuba wasn't gone yet. The cast had appearances in other crossover series, such as Isekai Quartet, where the characters and voice actors continued to stay in the cultural zeitgeist, with a diminished presence. However, a massive boon to the series would come with the release of Konosuba the Movie, The Legend of Crimson, in August of 2019, or November for us here in the States. It was a wonderful experience, and another massive success for the series. Yet shortly after, things seemed to vanish without a trace. Perhaps there was something going on in the world at the time that may have slowed down the production, but fans waited diligently, with bated breath, to see their beloved series return. Other related spin-offs and video game projects were continued to be released in the meantime. Yet in my opinion, they weren't the same as the original series. And after a nearly 5-year hiatus, with a shift in animation studios, Konosuba is back, and quite honestly, it's just as good as it was before. I've been following this series for the better part of a decade, and I have a certain appreciation of what it manages to do with this genre. It is a comedy with excellent timing, reminiscent of some of the greatest routines that I can think of, hence why I've made those comparisons in the past. Konosuba just hits differently, and I wanted to recap what's happening in this current season so far, starting from where we left off, to talk about all of the great things that I love about it, and hopefully encourage some of you to give this series a chance. The idea for this video actually came from one of my coworkers giving me her mail list, and it was like 30 times longer than my own, filled with a bunch of isekai stuff, because she's an isekai connoisseur, but she had the audacity to rate Konosuba a 6 out of 10. Very cringe. This is my retribution. This season takes place where we left off, after Kazuma's party defeats Sylvia during the events of the movie. And while the main series of Konosuba may have been gone, it feels like it never really left, because we immediately pick right back up there, and I had a smile on my face right from the first few jokes thrown at me. Kazuma is traumatized by his past experience, and rightfully so. So he decides to change the direction of his life, a quick end to his popular phase, by switching classes from an adventurer to a monk. Fitting, very fitting for that character. You know, if you've been in that situation, we've always thought about it before. Obviously, this doesn't go over super well with the rest of his party, and so once they come across an item that seems to give them an infinite money glitch, they decide to return to business and their typical antics. This includes finally selling the inventions Veneer was planning on making since Season 2. That is until Darkness has a request to come to the capital before another princess, Iris, and recant her vast and wild adventures. Darkness is a bit hesitant while the other three want to go, so Kazuma is given a chance to demonstrate the skill that, while it does break the 10 Commandments, never misses the goods. Darkness amends all of her relations with Iris, and they're all set to go home, until Kazuma is kidnapped and forced to stay in the castle as Iris's playmate for the foreseeable future. Kazuma, being the most relatable character in the history of fiction, takes on to castle life well, and stays on account of one condition.
もう一度できればもっと砕けた感じで。お兄ちゃんみたい。俺はこの城に残ることにした。
Men only want one thing, and it's disgusting. Eventually, Aqua, Megumin, and Darkness come looking for Kazuma and get him to leave, but in a ploy to spend more time at the castle, Kazuma pledges to take down a noble thief who's been targeting the rich and donating to the heiress orphanages. I wonder who it could possibly be. This involves them being bodyguards for the noble who tried to get Kazuma executed at the beginning of season 2. And it always makes me smile seeing this attention to detail. And while they're hanging out around the capital, they run into some familiar faces, to say the least. The level of disrespect Kazuma gives to Mitsurugi is just incredible, considering how quickly this guy remembered his name while facing off against Sylvia. If bro only knew. Straight Riz. Kazuma right here, he is the Rizzler. But the Devil King invasion of the capital eventually takes Kazuma's life, as he heroically dies in the most Kazuma way imaginable. But Eris is there to yoink him back to life, under the condition that he helps Chris on her mission. I wonder how she knows so much about their relationship. So Chris finally gets Kazuma in on her ploy to find the divine treasures with various abilities, such as summoning demons or body swapping. Basically broken OP items that the reincarnated people can use. And that's where season 3 kind of improves a lot compared to the first 2 seasons. There's a bit more focus on the mechanics of the world, such as classes, abilities, skills, items, enemy types, and more language related to the reincarnated characters. It turns out there is a divine treasure in the castle around the neck of Iris, and by utilizing his Nihongo Jozu, Kazuma is able to activate it and spend a day in Iris's place, while Iris is finally allowed to explore outside the castle. It's awesome because the voice actors are doing impressions of the other characters, and it's such a genuine delight. Most series would show you the struggles of adapting to swapping situations and such, but Konosuba is so good at subverting expectations that it takes Kazuma out of his ideal situation and puts him into Iris's less than ideal situation, and vice versa. This results in Kazuma being kicked out of the capital immediately, but Chris has other plans to steal the necklace and enlists Kazuma's help on the final night, which leads to the best episode in the season so far. Episode 6 is the heist episode where Kazuma and Chris stealthily assault the capital. Kazuma, trying to remain discreet, dons full metrosexual garments, including one of the products that he's selling, a veneer mask. It looks incredibly stylish, but this will have interesting consequences throughout the episode, to say the least. Kazuma actually loses a battle of rock, paper, scissors to Chris, and they immediately notify the guards because, well, Kazuma just couldn't help being Kazuma. They make a mad dash to the princess's room until they are confronted by guards and the princess's retainers. But Kazuma doesn't seem as weak as usual. He's actually using his skills like a competent adventurer? Wait. That's not like Konosuba at all. Till you realize Kazuma has adopted some very different mannerisms. A bit of a familiar laugh. Yes, Veneer always has a way of controlling characters to make them more competent than they normally are. And while he doesn't have total control in this situation, you can see Kazuma being corrupted by him and just straight up adopting his personality. It is the best part. Dude, it is just so funny. Honestly hilarious. And Mitsurugi, he wants to make a comeback, he wants to prove himself, but fails spectacularly despite a seemingly flawless protective measure against Kazuma's steel. Seeing Kazuma act more and more like Veneer is just one of the reasons this episode is so good, and these voice actors are really bringing these characters to life. Moving forward, they encounter Darkness, who sees straight through their disguise, Megumin, who is starstruck at their awesome costumes, and Aqua, who is, what would you expect, drunk. But they manage to steal the treasure and leave the capital undetected, even though they got a bit more than they bargained for. Once the characters return from the capital, they're thrust back into their usual antics in Axel, finally collecting the reward for taking down Sylvia and cashing in on the business deal made with Veneer. The actual timing of these jokes, it doesn't let up for one moment. Someone once referred to Konosuba as the Seinfeld of anime, and it certainly rings true when you're watching them out and about between adventures. This is because each character is developed enough to fall in love with, and you could just jump back into any episode and know who's who, where they're at, what struggles they're going through, subtle hints of character development, but not too much to like throw you off balance. And the show just continues to do what it does best. If there's one thing different that is noticeable but not bad or anything like that, it is the animation. All the characters are on model until, well, they aren't for comedic effect, but the animation is very slightly different, but not bad. You know, this new studio, they're putting in the work, so it's a-okay. The voice actors are all the same, and the plot seems to be going along in the right directions. Well, that's about all I have to say on that. Konosuba is a fantastic show, and you should certainly give it a try if you haven't yet. I can't explain how many laughs I've already gotten out of it so far, and I hope you enjoy this video. Please let me know what you think of the season down in the comments below. God bless, and I'll see you all next time.